Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another season and another episode of the Excellence Cartel. Today, we are joined by Aaron Williamson, and we are going to get a sneak peek into what it is like to not only train Hollywood actors, but pursue the role of being a Hollywood actor, along with a fitness coach, and just really kind of hitting a different niche that I know Jason and I have not been exposed to. I don't have any actors on my rosters. I got a few musicians. I got a top country artist drummer on my roster, but that's stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to this chat. But as always, we're going to get into how our last 7 days have been. So, Jay, I'm going to throw it to you. Got that AVH?
Yeah,
You're
man.
pumping. I know I just sent a client your way. She's been good to me, man, for years. So she'll be a treat to work with. She'll do it.
Awesome.
That's what's great.
Yeah. Last 7 days. It's been pretty good. We had this weekend was pretty chill. I just did a lot of dad duty stuff. We did go to a MLS soccer game. FCC's big here, Cincinnati.
How
They're
was it?
It was great. Like we were down like near field level, and I mean, there's really not a bad seat in there, and they're really good. And he plays, and I played all my life, so that was cool. And then he had his tournament all weekend, so it was just soccer, 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 really. As far as business side of things, steady, man. I'm not taking on tons new clients, but if it seems like it jives with me, and I can help, and all those things are there, I am. I'm just not taking everything that comes in the door at the moment. Still working on health stuff, going through all that, but
You
hopefully
feeling
making some
better?
strides. Making some strides, man. I'm making some strides. It's just been really slow. When
Sure.
you're dealing
I
with
get that.
immunity, autoimmunity shit from years of being stressed, it's a slow ass go. I'll say that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm going in the better direction. So,
Good. Well, you seem more optimistic in your tone.
yep.
Good. Man, my last 7 days been good. Clients, I've added a few, especially I've been doing more in person. So I enjoy doing that. I also have on a couple online, makes life more fun and more dynamic. But one cool thing is I went and had dinner last night with my good friend Joey, and we were talking about maybe me competing in men's physique. And he's like, well, what's the holdup? I'm like, well, I just came up in the bodybuilding only era. And when I think I had just a bad impression of men's physique when it first came on the scene and being backstage, you got no knock to anybody listening, men's physique. I've changed my opinion on it. I've met some awesome dudes who really changed my mind to it. And I think I'm just more receptive to it. But for me, it's just, he was able to pull out of me. I just want to compete. I just like competing. And if I can't do it because of my legs, but I have a perfectly fine upper body and I just have to retool my abs and just kind of maybe train my abs for once in my life and things like that, why not? So I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to do next year. I'm going to go ahead and throw myself into, I'm going to go out of my state. I'm going to go where someone's nowhere, anyone's ever seen me. I'm going to be the midget 5'2", getting in class A men's physique. And I want to go see what happens, find somewhere I want to go spend a weekend and just let it die, let it roll next year.
So, are you going to finally groom or
I'm gonna, we'll talk. It's a
you
heavy
can't be on
commitment with
that,
my
dude? You're
beard.
not going to, no, they're not going to look at you with your
What,
beard
what about if I
down.
braid it? What about if I braid it? Audience, what
Even
do we
worse,
think?
bro.
Braid?
You got to look the part. It's got to be nice and tight and trim, man.
I know. We'll talk.
You
That's
can't
what
go
I'm
up there looking
eyeing,
like ZZ Top and think you're gonna win.
Just
dude.
do the C-bum mustache.
That's what
That's
I look
legit,
good
but
with a mustache.
I'm good with that too. But everything else is gonna have to be trimmed up,
Yeah,
bro.
no, I will. I'll have a beautiful bald head and everything, but I'm really gonna go give it a jump. And he looked at me like you told me, Jay. He goes, "Well, how old's Jason?" And because you've hung out with him, and I said, "Well,
Yep.
Jay, I think he's like 40, 47, and he or
Yeah.
40, yeah." And he goes, "And you're 44. You'll be 45 in September." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Shit, that clock's ticking." He goes, "Better get going before you know it. You're gonna be right there where Jay's at." And I
Yep.
was like, "Shit, yeah, I can't wait till 2027. If I'm gonna do it, I better jump next year and start mowing down and see." And
Oh, we
if
better
I
get
don't
work.
do good, I've got bodybuilding and I'll just accept my shitty placings and be okay with it because I
Well,
love it. But
we better
anyway,
get rolling.
hell yeah, man. No, I feel great. So I know it's tough for me to text you how good I feel because I know you're working through it. And I know that there's nothing worse than hearing like someone's coming out of
Nah.
something when you're not like, oh, I don't want to
Yeah. No,
tell
you're
them.
good, man.
You've been awesome about it, like and encouraging. I always will say about every day. I'm like, dude, I could do something new with my hip. I couldn't do like
I'm
for
happy for
years.
you.
I know you are. I know you're a friend like that. So anyway, I'll shut the fuck up and let's get into this. Aaron, how's your last 7 days? First off, Welcome to the show. How tall are you? You about 6'4"?
6'3".
Okay, so I wasn't wrong. And ladies and gentlemen, he is seated. That is how good I am at being short and understanding how tall everyone is in comparison to me. Not bad at all. So how's your last 7 days been, my man?
Last 7 days are good. There's just a lot going on right now. I've been really getting back into the veteran side of things, which is, you know,
Yeah, you're a
very,
Marine, correct? Because you can't say former Marine, ex-Marine. It's Marine. My one of my
yeah,
close friends, Danny, is Marine as well.
yeah, Marine veteran.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your
Yeah, so
service, man.
my last 7 days, I've been really trying to work with my buddy Mike Diamond. He's a celebrity interventionist, and he just came on board with the American Addiction Centers. So I'm coming on board with him to start doing some work together to help veterans, which goes into our 501(c)(3) with Transcend Foundation that helps veterans and first responders. So that's kind of been a big piece of my last week is coordinating and logistics and things like that. We've got a podcast set up on the 28th, and we've got our first big fundraiser in September.
Nice, nice, nice. What's the fundraiser? Is that a theme or anything like that?
So it's something we're working on right now, but essentially we're getting so right now he's over in Vegas, so we're going to be doing this first event in Vegas, and we're getting a bunch of the local law enforcement, fire, first responders involved. But it's just a big fitness event. He's got some cool names he's trying to throw at it. We might have some big influencers on the Transcend side come out, maybe um, some WWE people. We're not sure yet. So
That's
we're in the beginning phases of coordinating all this right now, but it'll be a big event.
Hopefully it's Seth Rollins, man. He's a visionary. He's an extraordinary. He's amazing. But
Natalie Marie, she'll more than likely be there.
that'll be nice. I've gotten a chance. A couple of them come through my gym when they come through town, so I've gotten to meet them. They're all nice people, super, super cool. Definitely different than what it used to be. I remember running into Kurt Angle, and that guy was so messed up on painkillers, but he used to come through the urban active LA. Dude, I swear to God, he'd like stumble through. And I don't know what that son of a bitch did that day in the bathroom, but about 10 minutes later, he emerged and he was ready to go. And that dude could barely walk in. And I was like, oh wow, he probably put something
Get the
up his
good stuff.
nose before he went
Yeah.
and did that.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, Kurt. Hope you don't sue me over that. But anyway, oh, we are definitely back. Aaron, I have to ask. I train musicians high level. I understand how competitive it is in the music industry. I can only imagine that Hollywood is equal to or greater than is what I bear witness to. So with that being said, what is it like training actors and how the hell do you find actors to train? Like how does that stumble upon? Like I know Jay bodybuilding, me kind of bodybuilding, and I did in person, so I do a lot of gym pop, and Jay's over there now too. But how did it start? Like how did you get into that? That's neat.
Well, funny. Jason was like part of this initial journey for me because when I got back from Iraq, I was in a really bad place. I had moved to New Orleans and things just didn't work out the way I had like planned it all in my head. Like the vision I saw just completely backfired. And I think really out of desperation, instead of going back overseas or trying to kill myself, I just really kind of anchored into my fitness. And this is when Jason and I started working together for the 2010 New Orleans, Mr. New Orleans competition that I won. My goal was just to promote health and fitness around the city and just try and figure out a way to salvage my soul. And in doing that, I fell right in the middle of the film industry. There were more films and TV shows being shot in Louisiana than anywhere else. And obviously, the tax credit was really good, which is why everyone was there. So there were a lot of films, a lot of productions being made there. My first guy was Zach Efron. He came into the gym that I was training at. I started personal training, and he saw my kind of Marine collage poster, and we started talking. They brought me to set. It was a movie called The Lucky One. It's a Nicholas Sparks love story about a Marine Iraq veteran. So we clicked. They brought me on. I was his technical advisor, and that was my entrance into film and TV. So I made some cool relationships on the production with the crew. And what would happen is whenever a production would come into town, uh, I had some insight into where this office was going to be at that I could go in, introduce myself, pass out my flyers, talk about what I do. And it kind of became like guerrilla warfare, right? So every week I was just hitting production offices. I wanted everyone in the city to know who I was and what I did. And my work spoke for itself. And then I just kind of became the go-to guy there. So I never seeked it out. I just kind of fell into it. It found me, which is why I call it the destiny piece of all this.
You said, like kind of like that guerrilla marketing aspect. Explain to our audience what that's like and what you learn going from production office to production office, the amount of no's, the amount of how much you have to really push to kind of once you see the vision unfolding to make it happen.
Yeah, you just gotta kind of not think about the rejection and the no's and all that. You just gotta believe in yourself enough to keep doing it and not be discouraged by people who don't know who you are and just think of you as another trainer trying to sell something or because it wasn't only in the production offices. I was also going to coffee shops and going through these more luxurious neighborhoods and putting flyers in mailboxes. Like I was guerrilla warfare on every level because I didn't know what the film industry would turn into for me. I was just looking at like, hey, I'm trying to get my life back on track. I'm living out of my fucking car. Like some shit needs to change fast.
Now, Jay, I want you to think of where you like to go next, but I want to follow up this line. So you're in business and so forth. So what's your journey of business been like? Have you had any bad business partnerships, any good things that have been like I guess give me one high and one low as you're kind of going along this journey that you've had around this point as you've kind of getting your career built up.
Well, one is the fitness piece has changed my life in every possible way. And I've been able to anchor into that lifestyle. So I look the part and I'm just continually refining it and reproving it. And by doing that, it opens up more doors and you have a lot more conversations with people who you probably wouldn't have had conversations with in the past. I came out of the military and that was all I knew, right? So I was a shit kid. I graduated high school, went straight into the military. So all I knew was military, and then I came out, and then I went from military, Iraq, Afghanistan, to all of a sudden now I'm in Hollywood. I had no time to really find out who I was. Like I had no my integration back into society was very skewed. So it's like I'm in this high place in the Marine Corps, and then I'm at this low place because I lost everything I had. Now I'm back in the spotlight in this high place of these big names and getting on productions and all this stuff. But up here, I wasn't right, which is why my fitness was so important to me because it was the only thing that kept me stable. It was that anchor of the day, which is also why I like getting it done in the morning, right? Because it just sets me up for success for the day. I didn't know much about business. If I did, I would be in a much better place than I am right now because
That's
I was
all.
just yeah, dude, I was just going with the flow. I had no idea how to start a business, like what a business really was. I got an LLC incorporated, started coaching some people, and that's when I started using that for the production side of things. On a bad note, I've only been in business with one other person, which is what moved me to Scottsdale, Arizona, and I was going to work with this sales guy. And come to find out, I really didn't do enough homework. I trusted some people who wanted to introduce me to him. He talked a great game. He's got this very strong gift of talk. Like he can talk, what do they say, an Eskimo into buying ice or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can sell ice to an Eskimo. That's him. But I realized when I got out there, I made a wrong decision because that culture was not who I was. And then I just kept seeing it getting worse and worse.
What do you mean by that?
The culture.
Yeah, like that's a very broad word. Like, what do you mean
Yeah.
by the culture? Was it just not aligning morally, principally, things like that?
Yeah, like I'm not all about screwing people over.
Okay.
Money to me is nice. I want money and nice things, but not at the cost of other people's sacrifice.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Jay?
that went down a whole crazy path that I get sick to my stomach thinking about because I should have left a lot sooner than I did. But I'm like, man, I just moved my whole damn life out here to try and do something. I got to figure out a way to make this work, and it just wouldn't work because they're not the people that I have anything in common with.
100%. That sucks when that happens. I've been there before in business.
Yeah, it was bad. I'm still not over it yet. And when I say I'm not over it yet, because there's some things that I'm owed, and in some way, some shape, some form, uh, they're going to fess up. And whether it's me or whether it's all the other people who have reached out to me that they've screwed over, there will be that debt will be repaid somehow.
Yeah, man. I know we chatted off air, and just so the audience is aware, this is no one in the coaching space that you would even know. So this is even coaching space related in terms of health and fitness. So we can go ahead and narrow that off the board. Jay, what would you like to go now on that?
Yeah, so there's a couple things there that you mentioned. You mentioned, I guess, you said you were a shit kid. My guess is you weren't maybe doing all the things you need to be doing when you were younger, and that's what you made you decide military early. So my first question is, how did the military shape you as you came out? It sounds like maybe in some ways you were ready for the next step in life, but some ways you really weren't. And then not being ready for that next step, you mentioned, I either find fitness or I end it. What was, I guess, the turning point that made you move towards fitness and really try to work on that mental piece?
Well, growing up as a kid, I mean, I almost died in seventh grade from a drug overdose. I was hanging out with
Damn.
guys who were on house arrest selling drugs. I was doing, speed and cocaine and smoking weed in seventh grade. Like I say, I almost died. And I went through my adolescence just not knowing anything and not caring about anything, just thinking that I know what's best for me. Where I end up is not something I was even thinking about.
Mm,
Um, when I was in 10th grade, going into 11th grade, there was a guy on the varsity football team who was just stacked. I mean, just Goldberg style stacked, shave head linebacker, and just a guy you did not want to, you didn't want to confront if you had the ball. And I remember when he graduated, he went into Marine Corps boot camp. And when he came back, I was like, who the hell is this guy? Like, he was streamlined. He looked like an action figure. He spoke differently. He carried himself differently. Everything about him was different, not even anywhere near the same guy. And I don't know, just a light bulb went off, and I was like, that's what I want, but that's what I need.
mm,
So when I joined the Marine Corps, I went into it with this open mind, not really knowing what to expect. I thought Marine Corps boot camp was going to be more physical,
mhm,
but really it was more mental because there's a lot of games you could say to get played, but it's all really to make your mental side of things as tough as possible. Because when you're in those bad situations, mentally, if you crack, not only can you die, but
yeah.
everyone else around you can die. So sifting into that place right there, I learned a lot about myself, leadership, camaraderie, loyalty, teamwork, just everything you can possibly think of from a team perspective. Uh, I learned, and it was in me, and I was getting meritoriously promoted, and I developed this belief system that uh, allowed me to believe in myself enough that if I wanted to achieve something, if there was a specific goal in mind that I had, I would achieve it. You can try and throw obstacles in my way all you want. You can try and take me off path, however you want. I'm going to get to where the vision is up here. And when I left the Marine Corps, when I got back from Iraq, I did some contracting work. I was in a position now where I thought I had this job lined up that didn't work out. And then I'd never been to New Orleans, didn't know anything about it, and went on this downward spiral to where I lost everything. And I remember sitting in my car just thinking about how can I go from doing all these amazing things in the Marine Corps to all of a sudden now I'm in this little Toyota Corolla and I've got no one and nothing, but
Mhm,
I've got the gym. So, I have I lost a lot of friends overseas, and I always think there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about every single one of them. So there's this level of responsibility I feel I have to do something with my life because I'm fortunate enough to be here. when a lot of a lot of others aren't, and not just for me, but just across the board for many people. And that, you've got to really redefine your purpose in life, because when you come back, society's not like the military. And I learned the hard way, because when you shake someone's hand, their word doesn't mean dick.
Mm,
I got burned several times to the point where I had to just step back and say, you know what, I've got to do things in a different way, because people just, there's no such thing as integrity in this world.
mhm.
My buddy Danny, he was 20 and he was 2006 March of Fallujah, 200 forward operating missions in 180 days at 20 years old. And he said that he feels the same thing, like that debt, like he's got to go forward. And it's like almost like a burden. With that being said, and you are obviously earlier talked about working with veterans on what kind of mental health stuff do you do? Because that's an interesting journey itself. You had to put yourself back together because I watched Danny, I was there for him a while, a lot of us guys were, and it was really hard, but also inspiring to watch someone have to really pull themselves back together and really kind of because that's a world that no one could even comprehend. I don't care what people want to say they can. The movies don't do it justice. So what work do you do, and what did that look like in your mental health journey coming back?
Uh, it was rough for a while, because I honestly didn't know what to do. I tried to reach out to the VA to get help, and after about a year and a half, I just gave up and said, you know what, I'll just deal with this on my own.
He said similar.
Uh, but I do think that I went down several different rabbit holes. I did a lot of research about different. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. I was just checking
Did
something.
it. Yeah, I was doing a lot of research about healing, trying to figure out, is there anything I should do that I'm not doing? And at the end of the day, what it came down to was I just started trying some different modalities that were based around post-traumatic stress. Um, I did stellate ganglion block. I got into doing psychedelics, psilocybin. I've done it all. But I think really what this comes back to, and this goes back to what we're doing, trying to help veterans, right? When they come back, you've been operating in this, who knows what type of environment for how long, who knows what type of stress, who knows how your nutrition's been, who knows how your sleep has been. But I'd be willing to put money on it that it hasn't been great. And in that consistent, suboptimal environment of taking care of your health, your endocrine system takes a hit. So when you come back, you can't just put a band-aid on it with meds.
Mhm.
I think the psychedelics can have a huge benefit, but at the end of the day, the root cause of everything is really getting your hormones back to where they need to be. And this is where I talk about, the blood work side of things. The first thing you should do when you get out is get your blood work done, and let's address the deficiencies, because you've been expected to operate at the highest level in some of the most austere environments, but you haven't treated your body like you should. So now, how do you recover from that? Well, you address the blood work, you address the deficiencies, you bring your hormones back to where they should be, and all of a sudden you feel like a new person.
Mhm.
I wish I would have had that opportunity when I came back, but again, like our health and longevity space now is so much different than it was, you know, 15, 16, 17 years ago.
I my mind, I want to ask this. So when you first came back, I've noticed this with one of my clients, and he was elite operator through the world doing stuff, etc. It is very hard for him to lose fat. And it doesn't matter if it's a deficit, his hormones are fine and all that, but he's constantly set on a trigger to go. Like it's like he's like ready to go at all times. Did you come back with that same thing and kind of notice like as you were working on this journey that you had to kind of like unscrew all this stuff, which kind of how you started linking up with Jay? And I know Jay, you got some stuff you guys worked on, but did you ever anytime notice that? Because I've seen that some with guys coming back from overseas. Like it's like their nervous system's still really, really stuck. And you could give them any diet, anything else, but if you don't calm them like Jay does with like ice baths or saunas or different kind of therapies, they're
Mhm.
just done. It's hard to get anything out of them, no matter what you do. Even with the GLP-1, it's almost wild to see. Like you're walking up to, I'm like, Jesus. So just curious on that.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say probably I still struggle with it now because I always have to be busy.
Okay.
Like if I find myself having idle time, it feels like there's something wrong. Like I should be doing something. But I've gotten to a point now, especially this last year working with Jay, because we've really honed into some things with my body, trying to get my health back. Uh, but I'm at the point now where I can accept it. I can let myself have some downtime. I stop answering my phone after 5 or 6 o'clock at night. I don't touch it. I'm prioritizing my sleep. I get up very early. I want to get my training and everything I need to get done first thing in the morning before people start hitting me up. So it's like uh, that trigger is still there, but I know how to manage it better now.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
It's
100%.
all about managing
Yeah, Jay, take it over for a minute and kind of go over all that. Like when you get linked up and kind of
Mhm.
like what you were seeing and how you decide to prioritize what you addressed and
Yeah.
start working that. It's a very, everybody says this stuff's hoopla hoopla to a degree. You see some of that, but there's something to a lot of the work you have to do, especially with veterans. And I know you've got experience on, so I wanted you to talk about that.
Yeah, so when Aaron and I first linked back up, you know, Aaron's been at this a very long time, right? So his body is, to him, he looked terrible, but he didn't look awful, right? Like Aaron kept himself in pretty good spot, but he was not where he wanted to be. And he had this vision of how he wanted to look, but there was some things going on. Mainly, his gut was really not in a good spot, but he had just went through that terrible business episode. And so digestion was really off. I think sleep wasn't going so great either, right? Sleep was a problem. A lot of things you would consider kind of normal with someone who went through a really bad stress. And then you put the fact that, he had PTSD and different things from the past as well. Um, so my point is he wanted to build this physique, but we also had these underlying things that we had to take care of. So it wasn't this fast progression. We started layering things in slowly, right? Like getting his back on his like nutrition where he's dialed in. We slowly put in modalities and things in the morning that worked for him. And I'll let him expound on those things, but we put in things in the morning for him to help break through that sympathetic dominance. Because at the end of the day, a lot of his gut issues were from being stuck in that flight or fight. So we didn't have to do, GI maps and all these different things. We really had to work on the lifestyle piece. And so that was the biggest component. And then it was just getting him back to consistency to build the physique he wanted because he's always had a good physique. And I think we've taken it beyond where he ever was for Mr. New Orleans. And so, those are kind of the things that we worked through, but I'll let him discuss some of the things he does in his morning. But it's a pretty good morning routine where he is putting himself first to break through that CNS, that sympathetic dominance that wants to come out to play. And I think a lot of us hard charging individuals need that. I know I just did mine before I hopped on the podcast. I had 4 different things I did, and those are the types of things. So I'll let Aaron talk about some of those things if he wants, how he sets up his morning and goes about that.
Yeah, well, I started wearing this Whoop thing. I've never been a guy who's into the biohacking and like getting into electronic wearable devices and stuff like that. But it's actually been very insightful because some of the data on here I can share with Jason, and we can make some adjustments like for my HRV being lower than I want it to be. So I get up in the morning now, literally come straight from my bed to the living room, and I get in the red light for 15 minutes, do some meditation. And I'm telling you, it's doing something as simple as that can make such a massive difference. I'm still waiting for my cold plunge to come in, but I've got a sauna. So trying to add in things like that. I feel like right now the missing piece is really my HRV and my VO2 max, and so we started adding in some HIIT, a few times a week. And it's just like those constant fine tune adjustments. I love getting up in the morning and going for a walk, which is something that it's like I've, I've known how to do all this, but I was in such a bad spot when he and I met. It's like I needed to have someone take control
Yep.
of my whole everything, like my day to day on what I'm supposed to be doing because there's so much going on here. Sometimes I feel like my brain's going to blow up.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I'm going through my own health journey, and I have a coach through it. I mean, I know a lot of what I need to do, but it helps to have someone from a further view out to take it off your plate and say, no, you need this, this, and this based on what's going on with you. So, I mean, that's everyone needs someone to walk them through something when things are kind of broke.
Yeah,
Training
everybody does.
Yeah.
training wise, what do you do for your physique? Like what are your goals? So I know in the audience will love to know this too. You're pursuing acting. You've landed some roles. You got some stuff in the works that you're kind of was waiting to sift out. What do you do for your training and what are your goals and like why are you picking that training for those goals as being an actor? Because I want to talk about that because I'm being selfish to a degree. And wanting to know because I'm having to kind of like revisualize my physique a little bit potentially. So I'm kind of curious, like what you do, how you adjust, and what you're aiming for. At 6'3", you're a big boy. So I'm just curious.
No, you're saying training from like a weightlifting perspective?
Yes, curious how you do. Like, do you do upper lowers? Do you do the bro split like Jay and I like to do? Like, just curious. And
Just
like, what are your goals for that with the acting since you're into acting? Because you're obviously a typecast role, right? So that's what I'm kind of
Action
going
figure
for.
is the goal that he
Yeah,
gave me.
okay. There you
Uh,
go. That's what I
yeah.
was looking for. Okay,
And
cool.
so that's what he wanted. And before he answers, it was funny. I posted some pictures of him yesterday because he tagged me in it. And literally one of the people that follow me goes, he looks like an action figure. I texted it to him last night. I'm like, dude, we did it.
You got your
So
goal, baby. That's what
yeah.
I'm talking about.
So it
Yeah,
wasn't all out mass, right? It wasn't all out mass. We had to keep the waist tiny. And so there was some issues early on with the gut that we've solved some things. You can talk about diet, things that we've done, Aaron, because it worked really well. But it was that X frame that we really had to expound on.
yeah. Well, like right now, so I took a couple days off. I had so much going on. So yesterday and today, I took off of training. Yesterday, what I like about the nutrition strategy we're running right now is on the off training days, I'm doing keto or I'm fasting. Like so, I did keto yesterday right into a fast today. I'm going to get blood work done this afternoon. You know, just to follow up on everything that we're doing because at the end of the day, blood work is the blueprint for everything that you're doing protocol wise. And from the training perspective, this last split that he wrote out, it's like 18 day split. But what I love about it is, you're doing different body parts together. You're doing legs 3 times over the 18 days. Two of them are more quad focused, one's more hand focused. Having a chest, shoulder, back day, and then you'll have your a back day with traps. So it's like it's just so I've never really ran a split like this before, and I'm really enjoying it. I'll probably keep running it for a while longer because the gym that I train at right now just has so much great equipment. So there's so much variation to the different movements that I'm able to do from the training block. But from an acting perspective, I never seeked Hollywood. I never seeked celebrity training. I never seeked acting. I never seeked stunts. But when I got into the training piece and I started getting some notoriety from a lot of the bigger names that I was training, it opened up the door and started bringing in producers and directors. And they're the ones on productions who actually call the shots and make the decisions and hire people and fire people and all that. So when they started coming in, they kept asking me about getting in front of the camera. Have I ever thought about acting? Have I ever thought about doing stunts? And I'm like, I know nothing about it. So, little recommendations here and there. I started doing some stunt training, started getting into the stunt community, found an acting coach, started to kind of understand the craft of acting more. And what most people don't understand is like, yeah, people look at me and they're like, oh, you should have been in this Marvel movie. You look such the part. Well, it's more than just your look, right? The looks one big piece of it because obviously if you don't look the part, you're not going to get the part. But there's also too the craft of acting behind it, right? So it's like you have to you might get a script or you might get sides or just a piece of of what a character is going to say during a movie. And it's like you have to understand why this character is the way he is. So it allows you to kind of go through to childhood. It gives you it gives you the opportunity to create this character in your own mind of why you think this person is this way. And then you kind of hope it matches the director's vision because you'll have a pretty good chance of getting hired. But at the same time, when you're working with an acting coach and you're getting into the craft of acting, that became another source of therapy for me because all up until this point, it was just gym, just weightlifting, just fitness. Now I have this different opportunity to take some of these emotions that I don't know what to do with and actually use them in a productive way. So acting for me is very therapeutic. I love it. I'm a very quiet guy, but you can give me a character and I can bring this character to life, and you'd be like, I could have never saw that coming from him because he's so low key and monotone and quiet. And that's just why I've developed a love for acting. And I'm not trying to be a celebrity, and I'm not trying to talk about all this other crazy stuff that's really superficial and materialistic. Because you talk to these people nowadays, and it's like they just want to be famous. I don't care about being famous. I want to make my mind a productive place for personal growth. That way, I can live out the rest of my life in a peaceful place.
Yeah, man. Considering what you've been through, war, all that, you deserve peace. So 100% you're in pursuit of that. Jay, what would you like to go with this as we kind of start
I
getting ready to
think
land the plane?
I think a cool topic. I'd say this was probably, see, was it 2025? I say this might have been about 11 years ago. You and I did a call or two. You were working on a movie with Josh Brolin. I think it was called Old Boy, and you had to take
Oh
him from
yeah.
like he had to be like ripped and fat in the same movie. So you had to make him look really doughy, but you had to be able to turn around and get him in really good shape. And you only had like, I think, I don't know, you can give us the details, like 5 or 6 days. So you and I were talking about how are we going to make him look out of shape, but not really put on all this body fat. And it was pretty wild. I don't know how much of it you can divulge, and I'm not going to start doing that. I'll let you tell whatever you can tell of it. But it was pretty wild, and they didn't give you a whole lot of time, and I think you pulled it off pretty well. So I think it'd be an interesting little story.
Yeah, if you've never seen Old Boy, Spike Lee and Josh Brolin partnered up to make they did a remake of the original Korean version. And essentially, I had a total of about 3 weeks to put on all this weight and then take all the weight back off. So it was one of the more difficult things that I've ever done because, in the production line of work as an actor, especially on that level, you're just one facet in the day for this actor, and you have to have to really be dialed in terms of what you're doing because wasted time is something you can't do, or otherwise you're going to get fired. But I remember sitting at the production meeting with all the producers and the executives and the director, and Josh was finishing a movie in Boston, I think, like Labor Day or something, and then he was literally coming there straight to New Orleans to start filming. And they were like, how do we do this? Can you even do it?
And you
And
even
without
do
really
it.
thinking it through, I was like, because I just believe in myself enough to know that I can achieve it. I don't know the blueprint yet, but I'll figure out how to do it. And this is where Jason and I were talking about how to accomplish this because Josh is texting me. He's like, "Should I start eating pizza and burgers?" And I'm like, "No, dude,
Of course, yeah.
you can't get fat because if you get fat, then we can't. Then we need a lot more time to take it off. So it's got to be like water weight. It's got to be
Perfect.
inflammation. So how do you do that? Well, we did this food sensitivity test. Obviously, I've got a different take on food sensitivity testing now versus when we did that movie. But everything his body didn't want is what we loaded him up on. And I remember I remember him texting. He would text me in like the middle of the night. And Josh is a funny guy. If you don't know him, he's like really quirky. He's got a pretty dry, hilarious sense of humor. But he would text me in the middle of the night. He's like, I think I'm dying. And I'm like, you're not dying, I promise.
Mhm.
But so we did this we loaded them up on all these foods until we hit a plateau, and then did like a sodium and then a creatine load. We're just trying to puff him up as much as possible because the movie, he's like this deadbeat, low life alcoholic that no one wants anything to do with, and he just looks like garbage. So we needed to make him look like that, and we did it pretty easily. And then I remember on a Friday, uh, we took a picture and we had the weekend to pull all that weight off. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then when he came back on Monday to set, everyone was like, "What the fuck?" Like they couldn't get over. I mean, there was a couple actors who actually did interviews on it, talking about how they couldn't believe this was the same person on Monday that came in on Friday. So we just kind of depleted him with all the water, and it was just a cool experience. But I know he hated it. There's some things I don't want to discuss because it could have been a better experience for him if there was more uh, some better accountability in a couple areas and stuff. But again, it's like actors live crazy lives and they hang out with crazy people.
Yeah.
That's actually really unique. I was like, damn, where's this going? Like, how would you do that? And then you're like, the food says, I was like, yeah, get him to eat shit that inflame him. That'd be a fast way to do it.
Did you have to, I don't remember, did you have to use a diuretic or anything?
We used I don't even remember what we used. I think maybe one day we did some diazide.
Okay. Yeah.
What
But I mean, but realistically, I switched him all, took him all into the foods that his body wanted.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, the weight just peeled right off. I mean, it was like literally you could see over the course of the day his body and his face changing.
I have a question because I asked this of Josh, who we interviewed about NFL players. When you get an actor or actress to hire you, what is how is it? Meaning, like, what's their mindset to it? Like you said, there's some better accountability stuff that would make that experience better for him. What is it like when you're working with them, and like what do they demand of themselves, I guess, for these roles? Like, are they giving you the same that you're giving into them? Do you tend to have problems with that? Are you like what's that kind of like, I guess? Because when you said that accountability piece, I immediately pinged when you said, yeah, they hang out. I'm like, yeah, that'd probably be a hard variable to control.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on this on the level of the actor and how serious they are about the role. I mean, there's a lot of people who just come into it and they think you just got the magic solution and they just need to do A, B, and C. But
Yeah.
it's more about A, B, and C and D, E, and F too. Like there's so many facets of it. Just because you finish with me doesn't mean you can let off the gas for the rest of the day. Or like I don't want to stop over at your house and check on you and you got a beer in your hand or you might be smoking something you shouldn't be, like who knows, it's just it's such a very different way of life. And I think it's part of why I had success in what I did was because I lived the lifestyle. I'm in your face showing you what it looks like to what it looks like to live it and like how far you can bring it. And it wakes people up a little bit more because they see how serious you are and they see how real you are. And my focus on Josh, for instance, was like what we did isn't the healthiest thing to do. And my whole focus was to make sure that he stayed as healthy as possible during that production. You get some actors who come in and they've got, something going on from an insurance perspective, and the onus gets put on you, like, hey, you're his trainer now. You can't hurt him. If you do, production gets shut down. Like that's a big weight to put on your shoulders. And so you've got to try and like velvet hammer the actor, to say, hey, like we really need to work together, but do it strategically and very carefully, and so you don't get hurt, because if you do, then it's a bad deal for everybody.
Makes sense. That's actually well said. Jay, what do you want to say to kind of close it up?
Well, I want to ask one more question real
Sure, yeah,
quick.
yeah. Yeah.
Didn't you train with Rock? I don't think you trained him, but didn't you train with him?
Yeah, so
What was
our
that like?
first, uh, he's a guy who's just in it and loves it, just
Mhm.
like we do. My first, so I came on board for GI Joe Retaliation to train the cast,
Okay.
and I met everyone before I met him. He came in a little bit later. So the gym that I was training at was in Uptown New Orleans, which is kind of a nicer, fancier little spot. It was kind of like a boutique style gym. When I did my training, I would go across the river to the West Bank and I'd train at the dirty gym that smelled like armpits and blood.
Mhm.
So it's like that was my vibe. And when Rock got into town, that's where he ended up training. So one day I was finishing my training. I'm getting ready to walk out the door. He's on the elliptical warming up. I'm thinking he knows who I am. He has
Mhm.
no idea who I am. So I kind of give him a head nod as I'm walking out. I'm like, hey, whenever you're ready to train, let me know. And he's like, flicks me off. I get the fuck you or something like that. And I'm like, well, that didn't go well. Maybe, maybe I'm not training him. And then I get a text from him later, that day. And basically he said like let's get this started. So we would text each other, or he would text me at some point at the night. So before I was going to bed, I would kind of devise the training for the next day. We'd get in there at 5 a.m. to train, and you know I was training him, but at the same time we were training together. He wanted that synergy to kind of bounce back and forth. So he put on his headphones and a lot of times it was just me like give him a head nod. If I saw something wrong with his form, I'd go check his form. But he just loves it just like we do. It's kind of that anchor as well. I haven't met anyone as dedicated or disciplined as him when it came to their fitness in
Mhm.
all the years that I've been doing the training. So he's one that will take it to the highest level.
Mhm. Cool.
Yeah, he kind of strikes me that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when the late 90s there was Powerhouse Gym in Knoxville, Tennessee. Like the wrestlers would go through it. I saw like Scott Steiner in person, those arms, Big Papa
Yeah.
Pump.
Yeah.
Dude, he was freak. Like some were just monsters. I was like, damn. I also got to see Nasser, peak Nasser, 1998 Nasser and 1998 Gunter Schlurkamp.
Mhm.
Nasser was so big he pissed sideways going into the urinal. He had to like stand like oh, it's funny as shit. See, but anyway, um, Aaron, what I want to wrap this up with taking it back to your veteran stuff. What is something you would like our audience to know about your efforts with the veterans and how our audience can, I don't know, help better since our own country can't seem to help as well like it should?
I would probably say one of the if I could give any recommendations out there to society, specifically with companies, is you got to learn how to read a veteran's resume, because what happens is these veterans, come out of the military with a pretty strong skill set to some degree,
Mhm.
but because the terminology and the verbiage is different than what we use in regular society, a lot of times when someone doesn't understand how to read it, it just kind of gets snuffed off. So that's one of the things that I went through when I was trying to find work that led me down the path to losing everything. Is I just couldn't find work, and I'm I know I'm qualified. Like, look at what I've done, but
Mhm.
they couldn't put the pieces together to make it make sense from a company perspective. So I hope companies out there like really take a look and focus on veteran resumes and how qualified these people really are. And at the end of the day, we're not all broken. Sometimes we need a little bit of help, but at the same time, we have a sense of purpose and pride, and we're so mission oriented that it's really all we know when we come out, and we can be some of the greatest assets to your company. And I know a lot of companies who actually do specifically look for veterans because they know of that mission oriented structure and that routine that they have. So that's what I would say to whoever's listening, is really understand how to work with a veteran.
No, I think that's amazing advice, and you're right 100% because I've
Hmm.
hired some, and one of my good friends is vet, and he talks about that too. He was the coming back was real hard, and so I appreciate you being very transparent and sharing all that. Jay, what do you want to say to close it up? And then Aaron, after that, you can please tell everybody where they can like, find you, follow you, be a part of this journey you're on.
I'm just gonna say thanks, Aaron, to come on and talk a little bit about some of your background and some of your stuff. I mean, some of these stories were pretty interesting things. That's what we wanted to impart on to our audience. So I just appreciate your time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm glad we're able to do this. Like we've worked together for so long.
Right?
It's cool to get on here and cut it up together.
Definitely.
I'm on social media, mainly on Instagram. I'm really trying to get out there and just do the podcast, man, and get back out into the mainstream. I was hidden under a rock for a while with this bad business partnership, and I'm trying to get rid of that black eye because it was not a good place for me to be, and it was a hard lesson learned. But as in every mistake you make in life, it's a lesson learned. So
100%.
Yep. Yep.
Well, dude, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us, and I really appreciate you giving back to the veterans and your service, man. Thank you very much for that. So, appreciate it. Audience. Be sure to like, share, and get us out there again. We appreciate you. Take care. See you.
Yeah.